So good morning and good night and welcome to another collaboration video of the Shield Doing the Couch. And today, for the first time, I got JC Rock and Metal Reviews and Senorita Sabrosura. So we got what we would call in Puerto Rico a tripleta. So we're here today because we're going to talk about the anniversary of an album that almost needs no introduction, and that is the Black Album by Metallica. And as you can see, it has a very black cover, so that's why they call it the Black Album. And last year it turned 30, but this year it turned 31,
Yes.
which is one more. So we're going to discuss, we're going to talk about like what we thought when the album came out back in 1991. Then each people here are going to talk about their favorite tracks. And finally, we'll talk about how the album has held up 31 years later and where do we rank it on Metallica's discography. So we're going to start with JC Rock and Metal Review. So JC, how are you tonight?
Hi, doing very good. So this is a very important album, I guess, in my journey as learning about new metal. And this one I did buy. I think it was like the day it came out or the day after. Yeah, I kind of have a clear memory of exactly like where I bought it, like the exact store. And I liked it at first. Now I remember. Hearing the first single. I think I watched the music video on MTV when it first premiered, and it was Enter Sandman. And I remember thinking that, wow, this is pretty cool. I mean, it's a little different. I think they're kind of like a little like less thrashy than the other albums from And Justice for All. Like And Justice for All, that was a really heavy album. And that one I did like actually buy. I guess it was a couple years prior to that, but I enjoyed Enter Sandman, and then it was just an album that I listened to a lot, back in 1991. Even though that was a time when, I started getting into grunge. That same year, the Pearl Jam was coming out, and Nirvana, and all those. But I really enjoyed this album. It was like one of those albums I played a lot, during the early 90s. I think like Metallica and Pantera were like probably the only two metal bands I still listen to. Like everything else, I was really listening to a lot of alternative and grunge and like the punk rock when the Green Day came out. And I was doing a lot of that. But Metallica, it was just I really like this album. I think it's just a very solid album. I mean, yeah, you got the 12 tracks, and definitely it's just. Really good. It's a little different. It's a little like stripped down. It's not, it's less, not as heavy as their older stuff, but I think it's just a very like solid album. The production is great. They had the Bob Rock production. It's very clean and crisp. The songs were shorter, a little more concise, but I definitely enjoyed it a lot. And, I still do. It's something I still go back to often.
Yeah.
But that's my memories, yeah.
Thanks, JC. So what about you, Senorita Sabrosura?
Okay, well, to be honest, my first memory from that album was not in 1991, because in 1991 I was 9 years old, so I wasn't listening to metal. And then when I started listening to metal, I think I started backwards. I started listening first with Slayer, Sepultura, Pantera, Cradle of Filth, stuff like that, more heavier, like Death. And then when in 1997, when I had my first boyfriend, I was 15. So that's when I had my first boyfriend. He used to listen to Guns N' Roses, Metallica, and then one day, I think I told that story before. Like, what are you listening to? And he's like, "Oh, I think this is too heavy for you," because he didn't know. We were just like knowing each other. He didn't know what music did I listen. "Oh, I think this is too heavy for you." Oh, like, let me listen. Ooh, I like this, but it's not that heavy. It was the Black Album, Metallica.
Nice. And then you broke up with him.
No, but that was my boyfriend for the whole high school.
Oh, nice.
When I
Nice.
went to college.
And then you realize he had
Yeah,
feet.
and then it's like, oh, I like this. So I think I started backward with the heavier stuff, and then like, okay, I started listening to more like stuff like Metallica, Guns N' Roses, and then I moved to the grunge. But I really like that album, and this is the first time that I could see Metallica. I saw them this year in Madrid.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So
So
now to me, when I first listened to this album, it was in 1991 because yes, we're older. And I remember I listened to this album because I had in my school, I was in a Catholic school, and in my classroom there were like three metalheads. And at that time, I just listened to whatever was playing on the radio, whatever my parents put on. And I remember I went to my friend's house, and he was more into metal, and he had something on TV, and they played, I think it was Sad But True or something. And I was at first I was like, oh, what is that? That's too loud. He's like, oh, that's Metallica, you pussy. And then he's like, oh, you should listen to the Black Album and stuff. So he got me listening to it, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. And it's the first CD I bought. And after that, I went back and listened to more Metallica. But my first three CDs were Metallica-The Black Album, Pearl Jam 10, Nirvana Nevermind, and Saigon Kick the Lizard. Don't judge me.
Oh, I love that album. So I have
Yeah,
that
no, it's a great album actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, my first impressions of the album was at that time, to me, that was the heaviest thing I've ever heard. Obviously, then I listened to other stuff, and I thought, and old Metallica, oh yeah, it's heavier. But I think this album sounds, I think the production that Bob Rock did on it, it's just fantastic. It's, to this day, is the top-selling album of the last 25 years. This is in the top 200. Like 31 years later, that's unheard of. And you know, at first I loved it, and it was my gateway into more rock and metal. But like me being more of a 90s kid, I did listen to Metallica, but I grew up more on alternative and grunge. I think the metal bands that I listened to a few metal bands like Metallica, some Pantera, White Zombie, Anthrax, but the most of I listened was grunge. But yeah, Metallica was my introduction to heavy music, and to this day I still love this album, and I'll defend it to the day I die. So those were my first impressions of Metallica, the Black Album. So now let's go back to JC. What are your favorite tracks from this album, and why?
Okay, cool. So anyway, I'm gonna be like this one I just bought. This is the newest one. This is the 30th anniversary edition. It's the 3 CDs. So. Nice.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, this is really nice. Actually, this was a Christmas present. But I'm just gonna be going off my track list. Pretty much my favorite songs. I mean, it's like the whole album, pretty much. But well, anyway. But the ones I like, I mean, Enter Sandman, I still love that. You know, it's still a great song, even though I've heard it so many times. That's still one of my favorites. But so many other like deeper cuts that I like a lot. Through the Never, I think that's like one of like the heavier songs. And the final song, The Struggle Within, that's another one. It's the album closer. It's kind of an underrated song. I think a lot of people don't really talk about that one that much. And The God That Failed, that's a really good song. And actually there's a pretty good story behind it, because James Hetfield's mother had cancer, but you know, because of her religion, I think she was like a Scientology or a Christian scientist or something like that. She didn't receive medical treatment because of that, and she died. So that was James Hetfield's response to that, called The God That Failed. And you know, knowing that, I really like that song. So those are my three. If the one song that I guess I got tired of a little is Nothing Else Matters. I think that one didn't really age as well for me. I think back then, in that time, metal bands were being played on the radio and they were getting like these top 10 hits, but with power ballads. So I think that's what they were trying to do with Nothing Else Matters. But I think that one didn't really age as well. As far as ballads, I like the first Unforgiven a lot better. I think that one has aged a lot better. But other than Nothing Else Matters, I think the rest of the album is just very solid.
Yeah, nice. I would agree. And talking about Nothing Else Matters, I remember dancing in high school parties to that song. So I don't like it either. You know why? Because it reminds me of rejection. It's remind me of being rejected and unloved. So yeah. So Samari, Senorita Sabrosura, what are your favorite tracks from the album and why?
Well, of course, like JC said, Enter Sandman. It's a classic. It's been overplayed, but I still like it. It's I like the layering of the guitars in that song and how James sings in that song. I agree with JC. I like better The Unforgiven, Las a Ballad. And it was the first song I heard from Metallica. I like the lyrics, the acoustic guitars there. And then another song I really like, it's Wherever I May Roam.
Ooh, yeah.
That people think it's like a sitar, but it's actually like a mix, a hybrid of a guitar and sitar, like electric sitar. I like that the plate on that of the sitar and the gong and the chimes. Like for me, when I first listened, it was like opening the gates of hell. And then another deep cut. I never heard anyone mention this song, "My Friend of Misery."
Yeah, that's a great one.
I like what it says. Misery, you insist that that the weight of the world should be on your shoulders. Like I like that lyric, and the melodies of the bass on that song. And the other, I agree that I like because of the story, the God That Failed, and it's because of her religion. She refused the treatment, so that's why he was pissed, because she refused the treatment. It wasn't denied. She refused it because she says that God was gonna save her, but of course she died of cancer, and that song was the James' response to that situation.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, that's a great song.
Mm-hmm.
So you already mentioned all the songs. So yeah, let me go to like what I would think. Of course, Enter Sandman. I've heard that song so many fucking times, but you know what? It never gets old.
And if you listen to it live, I think they play 3 songs in the set list in Madrid. Enter Sandman, Sad But True, and Nothing Else Matters.
Yeah.
And you can see that people going wild and crazy.
Going wild. But yeah, Enter Sandman, and when I think of Enter Sandman, every time I hear it, I think of the music video. Because the music video had the snakes. And I remember because every time that music video played I saw it in my grandparents' house. My grandma got to the room like this: "Satan, be gone!" Because she thought I was watching a satanic video. Like I don't know in the States, but in Puerto Rico, anything metal was satanic. And Metallica wasn't an exception. So Enter Sandman, my grandmother went like this and threw holy water at me when I was listening to that song. And my grandfather didn't care. So my grandmother, yes. But so yeah, Enter Sandman is being overplayed, but it's great. None of you have mentioned of Wolf and Man. That's a great song. And it's a song that I don't think they play it that much. And it's great. I like it's all about like, I like the choruses on that one. I love the God That Failed because I love not only what it's about, but the bass line on that song is great.
Yeah.
I thought Jason shined on it. So this is the inner sleeve of the Bible that I have, and it has the lyrics and shit. My Friend of Misery is great as well. And another song that you haven't said, and I think it's great, and it's Sad But True. You know, I love Sad But True because especially the song is all about you being controlled, like the voices in your head. And I could so relate to many bad decisions in life that I could be singing Sad But True, it's you. So I just think, and it's amazing live. And I love Holier Than Thou. You know, that's another deep cut that it's all about before you judge me, take a look at you. I love the lyrics, and it pertains a lot
like
because,
going back to their trash roots.
yeah, going back to their thrash metal roots, and it pertains to this week because this week there's a TikToker that thought that she would cancel Metallica, and Holier Than Thou lyrics are great for that. I don't think they're gonna be canceled, but I just think it's hilarious that they bring up shit from 30 years ago. I'm like, really? It's 30 years ago. It's like, and things that without a context. But yeah, I like that song. But my favorite song of the album is Wherever I May Roam. I like the aesthetic of like where I lay my head is home. I'm like, yeah, that's the ultimate. Like, we're going on the road. It doesn't matter where we are. Where we are is home. And they played that live in the show when I saw them in Puerto Rico, and everyone went nuts. So yeah, those are my what I think of the song. So now let's go back to JC, and this should be easy. Like, has 31 years later, does it hold up, and where would you rank it in Metallica's discography?
Yeah, it definitely holds up. And like I said, I was just showing this new edition. The CD, the first disc, it was remastered, and it just sounds really great. The songs do sound very fresh. Now, the only one I did mention, like Nothing Else Matters, but that was the only exception. But I think it does hold up very well. And these are just songs that they're very well written, and you don't really get bored of them. So they don't feel old. But as far as ranking, I know we talked about this in our other collaboration we did, but I would say maybe like 5, because I think like the first 4, like I just, you can't beat those. And, I started listening to Master of Puppets, being that I'm a little older, that's what was out at the time. And then I bought And Justice for All when that came out. I was like 17 at the time. And it's just I really like the thrashier stuff, but this is just a great, like, it's kind of like the evolution of the band. They're kind of evolving into something a little different, and I did like that. A lot of people didn't. There were the people who said that they sold out with this album, but I thought it was very good. And so that's my answer. I would say at number 5 out of 10 albums. Yeah.
Nice. What about you, Senorita Sabrosura?
Well, because it was the first album I listened to Metallica, so I came fresh without the expecting nothing. I really like it, and I like it has a fuller sound. Obviously I went back and listened to the other albums when I discovered this album, but I like it's more focused and not so trashy. Like it feels more dark and heavy. And then other albums of Metallica, there's songs like I skip. In this album, I don't skip any song. Even Nothing Else Matter, Enter Sandman, that it's been overplayed. I can listen and it feels fresh. It feels, and when I saw them live, like they played 3 songs, and like I said, people were going crazy with those 3 songs. So I will give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay, you're right, 8 out of 10. And it appears that is it your favorite Metallica album?
Yeah, I think it's my favorite from.
So yeah, if I have to rank the album, to me, this is a perfect, like 9.5 out of 10, because I think it's flawless, ageless. It's good that you don't feel rejection when listening to Nothing Else Matters, like I do. It brings back bad memories of like, no, I don't want to dance with you. But yeah, uh, in the Metallica discography, like Senorita, I went to this album fresh as well because I had not listened to Metallica prior to that. So uh, it's high on my list. I would rank first Master of Puppets, then I would say the Black Album, just because it has a lot of nostalgia for me, and it was my gateway into music. So that's why I think it holds up to me, and I love it so much. And I have to agree with Senorita Sabrosura. There's no skippable songs. Even I love Nothing Else Matters, even if I think of rejection. You know, it's
And
a great it's a
that
great
song,
ballad.
that song almost didn't make it to the album.
Yeah, because it was too personal for
Yeah.
James, and he didn't know if he wanted to share it. Uh, so yeah, to me, it's a 9.5 out of 10. It's a classic album. 31 years later, it still holds up. Many metal bands have tried to get the sound of this album, and they failed. And I think when something is so hated, you did something right. You know, like people can shit and say anything they want, but they no one can claim that this is a bad album. This is not a bad album. It's great songs. Yes, they're more commercial than their previous things, but it's a natural evolution of a band. And I'm sure there's lots of bands that have tried to say, "Oh, I wish I would have a
Oh,
Black Album."
and I'm glad they didn't put a name on the album. They
Yeah,
just left a
stripped down Metallica.
because it was gonna be named Married to Metal.
Oh,
That's a silly name. Married to Metal, because it was a joke, because when they were doing the Black Album, three of them were going through divorce. So we're divorced. We're only married to our music, married to metal.
that would have been a terrible title. I'm glad
I
that they
know,
didn't do
and
it.
I think if they put it that name, it wouldn't be that successful. Only
Yeah,
because of the name, people are like, eh.
that would have been a bad name.
Yeah.
So, people, what do you think of Metallica, the Black Album, 31 years later? Does it held up for you? What are your favorite tracks? Comment. We would like to know. And if you haven't subscribed to JC Rock and Metal Reviews, please do. He has a great mind for music, and he does album rankings. He talks about albums that you say, like, I've never heard of that album before, but JC knows it. And he goes into great detail on album reviews. And I collaborate on his channel as well, and we do different stuff. So people subscribe to his channel. And if you haven't done, Senorita Sabrosura also has a YouTube channel. She posts more like mini videos talking about her Sabrosura recommendations. Most of them are in Spanish. So if you don't know Spanish, learn it. Or just put some translate. And she talks a lot about, she has a great knowledge of rock in Spanish. Like she's the rock in Spanish, that's her thing. She knows like all
I'm
that
gonna
time.
do more in English, but later.
Yeah, later, yeah. So and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. I have
Waiting
more
for it.
content on the way. And as always, on this August 12th, play Metallica, the Black Album loud. So until next time, this is Hector the Shield on the couch. And I'll
Señorita
see you all, Senorita Sabrosura,
and
and
JC.
JC Rock and Metal Reviews. And we'll see you right here on the couch. Thank you and good night.